Throughout my life, I faced many challenges, but nothing prepared me for what happened that night. It wasn't just a loss of my partner. It was a shattering of trust, the unraveling of everything I thought was certain. But the most devastating part was realizing how we had arrived at this moment. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Before we dive into the story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and support me. Now let's begin. That night, something felt different. She was unusually precise, carefully applying her makeup in front of the mirror, taking extra time to perfect every detail. She slipped into her favorite dress, making sure every element of her appearance was flawless. But what struck me wasn't her beauty. It was the absence of warmth in her eyes, a light that once shone but was now missing. A strange unease settled over me. "I'm going to a colleague's birthday party," she said, not bothering to look up. "Don't wait for me. I might be back late." Her words only fueled my suspicions. It was a simple statement, but it felt more like an excuse, a quiet escape. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Avery, you've been going out a lot lately," I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could. "Every time you leave, I get this awful feeling. What's going on?" She avoided my gaze, adjusting the laces of her high heels instead. "It's just a party," she responded, her voice colder than I expected. "I want to enjoy myself with my friends. Why are you making this such a big deal?" Her words cut deep. Was happiness nothing more than fleeting moments of fun? My mind filled with memories of us. Long conversations, shared laughter, the connection we once had. But now, all of it seemed buried beneath a veil of secrecy. "It's not about fun," I said, my voice firm. "It's about us, Avery. Every night, I sit here alone while you're somewhere else, and with each passing moment, I feel us slipping away. Why are you doing this? Why are you leaving me behind?" For a moment, guilt flashed across her face, but she quickly turned away. "I don't want to argue, Ethan," she said, walking toward the door. "It's just a party." But we had reached a breaking point. My patience, stretched thin for too long, was at its limit. "If you walk out that door tonight, don't come back." The weight of my words hit me the moment they left my mouth. My voice trembled, the emotions barely contained. Avery froze, her hand resting on the doorknob. Slowly, she turned to face me, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "Are you serious?" she whispered. I met her gaze, making sure she understood. "I mean it," I said, each word deliberate. "If you leave tonight, don't come back." For a second, I thought she might reconsider. But the hesitation was brief. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and whispered, "I'm leaving. We'll talk later." Then the door closed, and in that instant, something inside me shattered. It wasn't just the sound of wood meeting the frame. It was the final breaking of the bond between us. I remained in place, motionless. The silence in the room was suffocating, heavier than I had ever felt before. A deep, gnawing fear consumed me, one I had sensed but never wanted to admit. I could hear Avery's footsteps fading, each step widening the distance between us. Not just physically, but emotionally. About an hour later, my phone screen lit up with a message. When I read it, my worst fears were confirmed. Asterisk, "I just saw Avery with some guy on the street. Is everything okay?" Asterisk. My heart pounded. My throat tightened. The doubts I had been suppressing for weeks had just become reality. I sat there paralyzed. Should I call her? Should I confront her? Should I pretend I hadn't seen the message? But I couldn't move. My hands trembled. My breaths came unevenly. Who was he? What was she doing? What had happened? 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind, but none brought me any comfort. Desperately, I clung to the past, recalling the early days, our laughter, our late-night talks, our promises. I had been so certain she was the one, the person I wanted to spend my life with. But now all of it felt like a distant illusion. As I sat there, I began questioning everything. Had I done something wrong? Had I neglected her? Had I failed to fight hard enough for our relationship? Yet no matter how much I searched for answers, the truth remained the same. Avery had made her choice, one that I had never seen coming. The night stretched on, and I tried to force myself to sleep, but each time I closed my eyes, the same unbearable thoughts haunted me. I saw Avery walking beside the man she had imagined for herself. She laughed freely, moving through the street as if her actions carried no weight, as if there would be no consequences for what she had done. A storm of emotions raged within me. Anger, heartbreak, and the unbearable pain of knowing I was losing the woman I had once loved beyond measure. By morning, Avery returned home. She unlocked the door with ease, stepping inside as if nothing had happened. Her casual attitude only deepened my disappointment. She still looked stunning in her skirt, but her makeup, slightly smeared, hinted at a long night out. I watched her move through the kitchen, sipping her coffee, acting as if everything was normal. She greeted me as if we hadn't crossed a point of no return, as if our world hadn't just crumbled. She then got ready for work, completely unaware that, for me, everything had changed. I could no longer lie to myself. Her actions had shattered the respect I once had for our marriage. As I silently watched her walk away, I made a decision. I couldn't continue living like this. I refused to exist in the shadow of a lie. The moment Avery left the house, I got up, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and began packing. Every piece of clothing, every belonging, each item I folded felt like I was closing the final pages of a chapter. There was nothing left for me here anymore. What was once our home had become nothing but a place of sorrow and disappointment. I avoided looking at the pictures on the walls, unwilling to let my eyes linger on the memories of our shared smiles. Those images no longer held meaning. They felt like remnants of a lie. After a few hours, everything was packed. I knew I couldn't face her, so I decided to leave her a note instead. The message was simple, but it carried the weight of my decision. Asterisk, I packed my things. I'm leaving. I can't live like this anymore. This marriage is over. Asterisk. After sending the message, I powered off my phone. I didn't want to see her reaction. I didn't want to hear her excuses. I no longer wished to carry the weight of this betrayal. Walking out of that house filled me with a sharp, aching pain, but also an unexpected sense of relief. It wasn't an easy decision, but deep down, I knew I had no other choice. With my suitcase tucked in the trunk of my car, I sat behind the wheel, staring at the road ahead. I thought about the life I was leaving behind, the dreams I once shared with Avery. Dreams that were now nothing more than empty illusions. As I drove away, a strange silence filled the car. The radio played in the background. The sun shone in the sky, but none of it mattered. My thoughts kept drifting back to the past. The first day I met Avery, the way she smiled, the way she spoke, the way she made me believe in love. And yet, now I saw how much deception had been hidden behind those smiles. For a few days, I stayed in a hotel outside the city, needing space to process everything. I knew Avery would try to contact me, and sure enough, when I finally turned my phone back on, there were countless messages and missed calls. But I ignored them all. Her words no longer held any weight. The trust had been broken beyond repair, and there was no going back. A few days later, a mutual friend reached out to me. They told me that Avery was a mess, that she had been crying nonstop, that she hadn't even shown up to work. But hearing this didn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. The truth was, I still had feelings for her. But those feelings weren't strong enough to change the path I had chosen. Forgiving her would mean betraying myself, and I wasn't willing to do that. Time passed, and slowly I began to rebuild my life. I moved to a new city, found a job, and rented a small apartment. I hoped that one day, I'd be able to leave the pain behind and start fresh. Then, by chance, I met someone. Her name was Lily. There was something about her, something genuine, something kind. Her warm smile and the sincerity in her eyes gave me a feeling I hadn't known in a long time. Peace. For the first time, even if only for a moment, I felt like I could let go of the past. The more time I spent with Lily, the more I surprised myself. I never thought I'd be able to trust someone again, but she was patient with me. Never rushing, never pushing, just being there. And little by little, I found myself opening up to her. A year later, we got engaged. For the first time in my life, I could see a future untainted by the shadows of my past. Meanwhile, Avery's life had taken a different turn. Friends we once shared told me she had grown more distant, retreating into old habits. She returned to her reckless lifestyle, but it wasn't enough to fill the void inside her. One day, I stumbled across a social media post she had made, an old photo of us with a simple caption. Now I understand what I lost, but to me, those words meant nothing. She had been the one who made this choice. She had been the one who destroyed what we had. Looking back, I realized something important. Avery's betrayal may have pushed me away from the life I had known, but in doing so, it had also given me the strength to build something new. Everyone has their limits, and I had reached mine. Now, with Lily by my side, I live a life built on love, trust, and the happiness I had always deserved. Every story carries a lesson, and if this one has taught me anything, it's that betrayal doesn't just cost you a person. It can cost you yourself. Avery remains trapped in the past, but I am moving forward, and that is my greatest victory.